like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for July 22nd, 2020. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Lees.
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
We have a special night tonight with regard to public safety. There are two great things to discuss and announce. And so with that, I'd like to ask anyone who is here from the Colmer Fire Station and also from the Police Department to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Public for which God.
All right, is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Andrus, second by Vice President Rogers. All in favor of moving forward and approving tonight's agenda as up on the screen and in front of you, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we can move forward with that agenda. Citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments on agenda items?
Carla D'Alessio, 2169 Stewart Drive. My comment is related to the discussion about the fire station refurbishment. So can I just be heard when you get to that part of the agenda?
Absolutely. That's no problem at all. Any other citizens' comments on agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on to our consent items. Is there a motion to move into the record the consent items listed in your report?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees, second by Commissioner Zimmerman. Those items include the Board of Commissioners regular meeting minutes of June 24th, report for the month of June, the Treasurer's report for the month of July, the bills payable, paid bills in the amount of $9,785.81, and unpaid bills in the amount of $327,245.13. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those items into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. We're going to jump into our committee reports, and our very first one is something that has been an outstanding matter for a number of years, and tonight we're going to take a really big step forward, and very pleased to do so. So I'm going to start with Planning and Zoning Committee, Vice President Rogers.
Thank you. The first item is Colmer Voluntary Fire Company, the new fire station land development plan. Want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Rogers. The fire company has been working for a lot of years, I'll leave it at that, on a new firehouse for their current location in Colmer. They currently own 4 pieces of property right at the intersection of Jenkins Avenue and Walnut Street. The plan is to demolish the existing structures on the site and erect a new modern building that will house the equipment for the fire company and allow them to grow and train their officers. The project has been reviewed by all of the township consultants. It's been reviewed by the County Planning Commission and by the Township Planning Commission. It was actually recommended for approval about a year ago. However, we waited to bring it to the board until all of the financing was in place. So at this point, the project is, I think, on the cusp of being started, and everything is in order for the board at this point.
Carla, you can ask your question now if you like. It's actually an action item tonight, but why don't you ask your question now if that's okay?
So my question is similar to what I've addressed the board about in the past, and it was with Little Roundhouse, if I remember. So for those from Colmar, I applaud you guys. This is nothing personal. My whole career I've spent in a very regulated industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm a bit of a rule follower. And I've been engaging and reading. I read the full minutes, and I am again quite surprised at the number of stormwater management related waivers that are being given to this proposal. And there are 3 in particular I'm going to bring up. One is the slope of the basins. The code is a 4H to 1V, and they're being granted a waiver to a 3H to 1V side slopes. That's, on a delta, it seems like a 1, but that's a 25% variation in slope. The other is the 18-inch storm water drains. They've been given a proposed granted a waiver that they can use 15 and go all the way down to 12 inches in some of their piping. So that is anywhere between a 17 to a 33% variance off the code. And the third, the most concerning, is the impervious surface. There is a code that impervious surface is no more than 45%. They're going to 59.5. So that is a delta of 14.5%, but it's really off the code, nearly 33%. More of their ground is going to be covered with impervious. So again, I'm bringing these up, and it's not personal with any of the proposals, but there have been a lot of residents who've come before this board that I've witnessed that are concerned about two major things in our township: stormwater management and traffic. And that's why I've focused on the stormwater management. And I don't want to address these in particular unless you want to, but I want to raise this at a high level. I'm trying to understand how equitably distributed waivers are for stormwater management. So for example, I do want to put a pool in my backyard. I can't get anybody to do it, but would I be granted a waiver if I wanted to cover more than an extra 33% of my land? I don't know. So I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for all the residents who are probably pretty busy now and not reading all the details, and I'm just trying to understand how you go about granting these various stormwater waivers to various applicants. And I do appreciate, we want to be pro-business. I understand that brings in tax money. But I'm just concerned, and I want to raise it again, about the magnitude of the variance on the stormwater management. And I brought it up before, and I left that meeting not feeling that it was adequately addressed. I feel like we're on a slippery slope. Like, you know, that's why I said I'm a person who works to the regulation. That was what I was required in my profession. And I don't understand how the decisions are made in this township with respect to such large, statistically significant variance off the code.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I will speak to the pipe size and the side slopes of the basin. Starting with the pipe size, the ordinance requires 18-inch minimum diameter, okay? The focus of that requirement is for piping in the streets. Most applicants will come in and request a waiver from that requirement because they need to put in smaller pipes for their roof drains. You do not need, for most buildings, you're not going to need an 18-inch diameter roof drain pipe. However, we are more concerned about what happens in the public streets. There are occasions where the pipe system that you have is tying into a 15-inch pipe because it was put in years before the 18-inch requirement was there. Would not have an 18-inch pipe feeding into 15-inch pipe. That's sometimes why the waiver is needed as well. It is not a matter of reducing the size for any particular benefit to the applicant. It's done on a case-by-case basis, and 95% of the time it's because they're asking for relief for the on-site systems. Many of the projects we've had lately have been private. So if there's a small area that they need to drain that gets out to a larger system, it would be appropriate to have a 15-inch pipe. Wouldn't necessarily need something larger because it's private. It has no impact on the amount of water that leaves, and we always check the capacity requirements for the pipe system are the same regardless. So if we reviewed the plan and felt that the 15-inch pipe that they were proposing could carry the 100-year storm as required, we're okay with that. It would be unreasonable to force them to go with something larger. In this particular case, you're talking about the fire company. I believe, it's been a while since we looked at the plan in detail because they've had other issues to work out, but my recollection is that the inlet system and the pipe system they're tying into in the street is 15 inches. So it would be extremely unreasonable for me to tell the fire company, you have to chase that down and rebuild the entire system until you get to an 18-inch pipe. So there are places where these things are, the waivers are reasonable.
Sensible, practical. I understand. Would
All
you-
of the above, yes.
Would you address the impervious surface? That's the one that caught my eye, like a 45% max up to 60.
And
I'm going
could
to
you
kick
hand?
that to the zoning officer.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll pick that one up because the impervious surface is not a waiver. That was a variance from the zoning ordinance, and that's a different procedure. There was a hearing before the zoning hearing board. The applicant appeared at a public meeting. There was notice given to all surrounding property owners, and at that public meeting, the applicant came in with his engineer and made the appeal to the zoning hearing board as to why it was appropriate, based mainly on the fact that the existing site is already over the impervious surface limit, and the minor increase is what's known as a de minimis increase. So there was no reason not to grant that relief. The zoning hearing board determined that the relief was appropriate, and it was granted. Variances for that sort of thing, and you mentioned your own home, can be granted. You can apply for a variance in the same way that the fire company could, and if you can demonstrate that there is something unique about your property that would warrant relief, then you would be entitled to the same kind of relief. That's definitely handled on a case-by-case basis by a completely different body, not by this board.
So can I ask, so if I were to buy my property that wasn't in line with current code, if I were to buy a property in the township that covered more than the 45% maximum, if I wanted to further development, it's almost like your grandfathered if you existing building to a different standard. We're not requiring new applicants to come up to current standard. It sounds like they made a petition, since we already are covering more than the maximum per the code. They were granted, I don't know the exact term, a variation or, and I get, again, philosophically, I'm just trying to understand, is that sort of thing equitably distributed? It just always surprises me when I read these, how many stormwater management exceptions we make for applicants. So as I read them, I hope not, but I suspect I'm going to be up here again, just bringing it to the public's attention that we're doing that as a township on an issue that concerns a lot of residents. And I mean no disrespect to anybody's position or their assessment. That just troubles me a little bit, and I wanted the opportunity to say that again.
When you say equitably distributed, you mean between, are you implying that there's possibly inequitable distribution between entities?
I don't know, because when you move off the code, when you're in a regulated industry and you move off the code, to me, you've now come onto a slippery slope where, okay, this seems to be reasonable, so we're going to make an exception. When you start making exceptions for different businesses or applicants, commercial or private, will everyone get that same access to these types of waivers? And I think you're going to say yes, and I'm hoping you would.
Yes.
But as a township that's struggling now with stormwater, my plea is I'd like to see fewer waivers, and you know, I worry maybe that you're, how to say this, it's going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I want to be pro-business. I get a sense from reading some of these that you want to try to help these applicants out the best that you can and not give them undue burden so that they can develop their projects and grow and be successful in this township. And I get that. But when you start dealing with stormwater management, I get uncomfortable because it's an issue that affects so many of us. And I would just like to see a more discerning approach to waivers or variations when stormwater is the issue.
So for this particular one, I think you were given two discernible approaches, right? One was you're not going to pipe a 18-inch pipe into a 15-inch main. Discernible, recognizable, and decide to move in that direction. No special privilege, but anybody who would have that same circumstance more than likely would be given that same waiver. I think Ken just described, they were already over the limit, impervious limit, Ken? Where's
That's
Ken?
correct.
And so if they're over it, and I think what I've heard was they're grandfathered in. there's no-
And they get a little bit more.
Yeah, they're grandfathered in, and quite candidly for this is public safety. So whoever's house is on fire would want a station nearby to extinguish it. So I don't think they got any special favor, but they certainly were over the limit already, and as de minimis increase. So I think you were given two examples of why these waivers were given.
And again, I just pulled up 3 as illustrative. There are a lot in this application. If you look at quite a lot of waivers as it relates, some may be minor. I'm not an expert, I'm not a water engineer, but some of the 3 that I just pulled out before coming over here seem to be significant.
Mr. President, can I elaborate a little?
Please.
Because you're interested in this topic, and I've worked here either as the zoning hearing board solicitor or as a township solicitor for about 22 years. So stormwater, traffic absolutely have been the major concerns for the township. Unlike your pharmaceutical business, which is regulated, we are regulated by a state statute called the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. And there's 2 chapters that pertain to these things that we're talking to tonight. One has to do with waivers under the subdivision and land development ordinance, and there's another chapter about zoning, and that's the impervious coverage issue. And there's rules and regulations that we have to follow in, let's just talk about the waivers, because that's all this board's able to do. There are provisions in the law that when the code can be met in another reasonable fashion other than as it's written, a waiver shall be granted. And then there's a whole body of cases that interpret litigation for years over things like that. It's not uncommon to see 15 waivers, 18 waivers, lots of waivers, because every piece of ground is different, the topography's different, the grading's different. Sometimes DEP has regulations that our ordinance hasn't caught up to yet, and so that's why waivers make sense. But the idea is, especially for stormwater, what Brian's office does is make sure that it's safe and that it works. So if modifications are made along the way to make that happen in a way that's not overly burdensome and kind of overdoing it for an applicant, well, then we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to grant waivers. So there is an obligation on the commissioners because of that state statute. We're treated differently. Zoning is a whole nother conversation that I could spend hours on, but that's, you're entitled to variances under certain circumstances. Again, there's a whole body of law to that. And I know that the zoning hearing board cares that the stormwater management works. So if someone comes in for impervious, they have to show that they can handle the stormwater management. So I think that's what's happened here, but that's how these are looked at. Each property is different, each ordinance is applied, and then their office makes sure that it works from a public safety standpoint. So that's how we do it for every application, no matter who they are. Colmar didn't get any special treatment.
And I didn't mean to imply that you did, and I thank you for entertaining the conversation.
Thank you.
One thing too, just not to pile on, Carla, but just so you're aware of the zoning hearing board applications, and Ken mentioned, anytime an application is submitted, every resident within 500 feet of that property gets notified and invited to that meeting. So if there were stormwater problems currently existing, the neighbor would have brought that up. They would have dealt with that with the applicant and worked their way through it. So all of that is part of the process. Everything we do is a very public process. So, and a lot of it is subjective, and I know that's hard to grapple with when you're from a very objective industry. But that's the environment that we live in here.
Okay.
Item number 2, land development waiver, discussion for 25 Bethlehem Pike redevelopment. It's the self-storage facility. Ken, do you have this one too?
Vice President, before we get into that, could I just finish a few slides for the fire company?
Oh, yeah.
We've been working on this project for so long, I'd hate to just blow
Okay.
past it.
Well, I was waiting till before when we have the motion, but why don't we do,
Let's at least
yeah.
show the project, and then when you
let's
guys
do
vote
that.
on it, I know you have a lot to say, Mr. President, you've been involved
Hopefully
in this
not a
for
lot.
10 years.
They've been waiting a long time.
So this is the site plan, little bit of a difference. This is a pretty significant basin. This will be the new fire station here, so shifted a little bit further away. Walnut is right here. This is Jenkins. So currently, the building stands, the footprint is more in this orientation. Right in the corner there, Joanne. So it's being shifted over. I'll give you a sense on, we all know and love the beauty of Alf, and this is what it looks like today, but this is what it will look like, and these are some renderings and just sketches, and just to give you a sense on what the building will look like. That's from behind, so you'll see all the bays. The fire engines will be able to go straight through. I have more to say, but I'll let Mr. President jump in when we do the action items before I just have a few seconds as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about it then.
Okay.
Bob, why don't you go on to the next one?
Okay. It's the 25 Bethlehem Pike redevelopment self-storage facility.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rogers. This affects the property that many of us know as the New Yorker boiler property. It's a 25 Bethlehem Pike. It is the old New Yorker boiler factory, which has been owned by the Gambone organization for approximately 20 years. It is currently used for storage. It's just sort of marginal tenants in there now. And it is part of a larger tract that will all be redeveloped through the land development process by Gambone Development. In the meantime, they have found a user for the New Yorker boiler building, and they would like to be able to start work on the building to accommodate that user as quickly as possible. In order to do so, they needed to go to the zoning hearing board. They needed relief from the zoning ordinance. They went and they did receive relief to change the use from the existing non-conforming factory use to a self-storage facility. They also received approval to remove 2 sections of the building that are currently in the floodplain. Those sections will be removed, and the area that they currently occupy will be regraded to protect the floodplain. They will also be removing a section of the building which currently projects into the right-of-way of Bethlehem Pike and prevents the sidewalk along Bethlehem Pike from flowing in a straight way from Broad Street down to the bridge across the stream into the area where Walnut Creek is, which then moves down into Montgomery Township. So what they plan on doing is converting the use, removing the sections of building that I described that are in the floodplain and in the right-of-way, rebuild another portion of the building outside of the floodplain. The net result will be a smaller building, not by much. It's currently about 39,000 square feet. When it's done, it will be about 38,000 square feet. So it will be just a slight bit smaller. It will occupy less impervious cover. It will restore the floodplain in the areas that are currently encroached upon, and it will allow the sidewalk to be installed properly at Gambone's expense down to the bridge. So all of those can be accomplished. However, they did ask the township to allow them to move more quickly than they would otherwise be able to by bypassing the land development process. They still have to go through, as any time the board waives land development, they still have to go through the same engineering process, the same reviews by all of the township's consultants. However, they do streamline some of the approval process, and it allows them to be a little more nimble in putting this project back on the tax rolls. So that's the proposal from the Gambone Development Company. It's been discussed by the Planning and Zoning Committee and recommended for approval. There is currently resolution prepared by Ms. Pianzio's office, which has been signed by Mr. Gambone, and there is also a check that's been tendered to the township to reimburse the township for some of the expenses that might be involved in going through this process. So at this point, the project is ready for the board to take action on later in the meeting. I believe Aaron had some slides, and they're probably right behind me.
As you were
showed them.
speaking, Ken.
Yep.
Thank you. This is, most of us are familiar with what the building looks like today. There you go. And the rendering that was just on the screen is rendering of what it will look like. This is looking south on Bethlehem Pike. Frontage along Bethlehem Pike will be completely cleaned up, and the building will then be occupied.
So Ken, the south side of the bridge they'll take care of that part?
Yes, the south side of the bridge is being taken care of by the developer on the other side of the stream, the developer of Walnut Creek. So they are taking care of that side. We have been asking them to do that, although there hasn't been a huge push because we wanted to get the Gambone side done. This will allow us to get both sides done simultaneously.
Thank you.
And when you started, you said there was a larger plan for redevelopment. Is that the larger plan?
No, the larger plan is the balance of the property. This, I don't believe we have a plan that shows the entire property, unless, oh, Aaron's sneaking them up on me
I'm going
again.
to turn you around there.
The area where the dot is and south is the area we're talking about right
Right.
now. From the dot north to Broad Street is still area that will be developed at a later date by Gambone once they obtain tenants, and that will be part of a larger land development plan which will encompass the entire area from Broad Street south to the stream.
So that, what's being proposed would remain unchanged under the future plans. That building's going to stay.
The building that's currently before you
Right.
will stay under the new plan, but the plan will then redevelop the entire area between this building and Broad Street.
In this piece right now is currently being developed as the new Grandview Orthopedic Outpatient Center that you may have seen. It had its grand opening actually this week, I believe. Behind it, a parking lot for SEPTA, just so everybody gets a sense on where we're talking about. So a lot of good redevelopment in that area.
And Kristen, by I guess not having them go through the land development waiver discussion, what does the board relinquish in terms of our authority or power?
They really go through the same process. They just really skip a planning commission meeting. Because they're reducing what's there today, it's not much of a land development at all. It's a redevelopment. So to make them go through a planning process when there really isn't any planning involved makes no sense. But they still go through all the reviews, like Ken said. They pay for the consultants. It's fully reviewed. It just doesn't have that planning aspect, so it shaves off some time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, item number 3 was the Naplin 6 fixed trail lot line adjustment.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rogers. This plan is a plan that was initiated by the township. When we put the trail in through the Bishop property and up to Sterling Drive, it runs through from the intersection of Orvilla Road and Independence Way. It runs through the Bishop Farm all the way up to Sterling Drive. When we put that trail in order to accommodate the terrain and to make an intersection at Sterling Drive that provided proper sight lines for people exiting the trail, we had to shift the trail onto property owned by the Knappen Group, they're currently building a warehouse at the intersection of Bethlehem Pike and Sterling Drive. We spoke with the Knappens. They were willing to give us the area that we needed to encroach on, and the only condition was that we accomplish the subdivision as quickly as possible so that we would take possession of the land and remove any liability from their organization. So we've taken this, we've sent it to the County Planning Commission. We took it to our Planning Commission right away. We've got reviews back from both, recommendations for approval from both, and we wanted to get it to the board as quickly as possible so that we can accomplish what we promised the Nappans we would do. This is about as simple a subdivision as you can imagine. There is approximately a 7,400 square foot area that's being detached from the Nappan property and attached to our open space along the stream and along Sterling Drive. This plan will accomplish that. There's no development whatsoever planned as a result of it. It's simply a cooperative agreement between a willing property owner and the township. So this is one of those cases where it really is a win-win.
7,000 more square foot area to our open space along one of our existing trails. We take it off their hands. They don't have any other liability for it, obviously, because it's ours.
Correct.
And that's what we'd be voting on tonight.
That's exactly right.
Any questions, comments?
Okay, the last item is Snyder Square Land Development, the commenced 18 months maintenance period.
Again, Ken?
I think I'll be happy to
Ken,
take
would
this
you-
one.
do you want this?
This is simply the final step in the development of the Snyder Square townhouses, which sit on the property which was formerly occupied by Snyder's hardware store. The 101 townhouses have been completed. All of the land development work has been completed. It's all been reviewed by CKS and Brian McAdams' office, and the last step is for the board to receive a maintenance bond from the developer that we will hold for 18 months, which guarantees all of the improvements that have been constructed. And at the end of that 18-month period, the township will do one last inspection, and the developer will correct anything that's deteriorated within that 18-month period. Otherwise, the project is 100% complete at this point and ready for the board to accept.
We also got a place for our Historical Society.
We did. We were fortunate to be able to find a really good new use for Representative Godshall's old office, and the Historical Society is in there now.
And folks, when public entities, public locations are more accessible, I'm not sure what their accessibility is right now, we encourage you to go see it. It's really, even at the beginning stages, we took a tour months ago, pre-pandemic, and it was really, it's a great place to be, and it just kind of, you can just feel like you're walking right into history. You know, it's not the biggest building, but they've done a fantastic job of really making it very kind of Hatfield all around, and it's got some really interesting stories and pictures, and very much worth going. Bring your kids if you're if you can get them. If you can't, just force them to go. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's all we have for planning and zoning.
All right, we're going to jump right to Public Works Committee. Commissioner Lees.
Thank you, President Ziffel. On the agenda tonight is the approval for the first two payments invoiced to the township from Blooming Glen. They're the contractor who's realigning the cow path on our Villa Road intersection. Total for the first two invoices is $223,463.92. As a reminder to the residents, these expenses are being reimbursed by PennDOT thanks to a $1.9 million grant the township received for this project. Work is moving on schedule thanks to the dry weather, and we're still hoping for completion in the fall. Driven by the intersection lately, the project is really starting to look good, and it's really starting to come together. Could we have a motion to approve these payments?
Go ahead.
Go right ahead, Greg, sure, if you want it.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion, we approve the
Yep.
payments.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Lees for approval of payments number 1 and 2 for Cow Path and Villa projects in the amount identified in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by the Vice President. And if there are any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just, the other night, I just kind of stopped and walked around over there. And if you stand there right at the very end, you can envision actually crossing that intersection now without having to make a dog leg or a right or a left. It's pretty neat. So, I mean, it's a long time coming, so I think it's going to be really nice.
All right. Without any questions or any further questions or comments, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving those two payments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Greg, anything else under Public Works?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, Park and Recreation Committee, Commissioner Zimmerman.
Again, there's quite a bit of items on this, so be sure to check the website in case you miss something or you want further information. But for programs, we're still doing virtual yoga in the month of August on Thursdays from 7 to 7:45 p.m. And actually, you can do it in person if you'd like, or you can do it on $40 for residents, $50 for non-residents. Another American Girl Craft in History. Girl will be Julie Albright, and the registration includes a craft kit, an activity, and a video. You need to register and pick up your kit at the building here on August 19th, and that's a $5 registration fee. Oh, okay, sorry. I can hear myself echoing, but I guess it's not going out there. Okay. All right, Storytime series, is that better? Okay. Registration is $5 and includes a storybook and 2 craft kits. And you can pick up your books and your kits again here at the Township Building. Children will read the stories and complete the crafts individually, or they can do it with their family. You're going to email pictures of the family reading and the completed crafts by the end of the month, end of August, to be included in our August Storytime series post. The featured book for August is Should I Share My Ice Cream by Mo Willems. Keep your eye out for Trivia Night, Tuesday, August 18th. You can register and participate via Zoom and Kahoot. Puzzles, 2 new park puzzles are coming in August. Follow the Township on Facebook for the details and a chance to win a prize. Have the Dash and Splash 5K, which is just virtual this time. If you register for Dash and Splash, you can run it individually, you can run it with a friend, or run as a family. Your registration will include a shirt, a finisher's medal, a tumbler, and a splash kit. So all you have to do is just choose your own day, choose your own time, place that works best for you, and you're going to complete a 3.1-mile run. And you pick up your packet here at the Township Building on Wednesday the 27th. Is that this week? Or Saturday, August 1st. Submit pictures of your run by August 31st for the chance to win a virtual yearbook superlative award. And again, more information, it's www.runtheday.com. And then Music Feast, we actually had our first one on Monday, and I stopped by and it was pretty well attended, even though it was hot as the dickens. We had a little bit of a breeze, and there was quite a bit of people out there. It was really nice to see them back again. So we've got 2 more scheduled for August. On the 3rd, we have Mud Puppy, and on the 17th, we have Challenge Accepted. And we've got markers throughout the park for social distancing, and hand sanitizing stations also throughout the park. And the time is from, the concerts run from 6 to 8. Me? No food. You have to bring your own food. You can picnic if you'd like, bring your own at the park. Mm-hmm. Yep, same as last time. Yep, but you do have to bring your own food and drink. We don't even have water available. And we're going to have a movie out there too, coming up. So it's going to be our first movie in the park event, and it's going to be Friday, August 21st, and it'll tentatively start at 8, sundown, and again, it's at the School Road Park. And title of that movie, but it's a family movie, so check that out though at the website. And again, any questions or anything that you want to pick up or participate in, just check out the website, and then a lot of the information and a lot of the kits and the registration stuff you will just pick up here in the building. Any other questions?
The movie's going to be about Cowpath and Orvilla.
Ah,
Realignment, animated series.
the trolls that come in and do it at night.
It may be a little
Yeah.
slow, though.
It'll be a trilogy.
Part series.
They go 25 years.
Armageddon.
Not talking about your career, Jim.
It could be this. It could just be some banter that goes back and forth. That would be just as good. All right, Commissioner Zimmerman, anything else?
No, that's it, thanks.
All right. Public Safety Committee, we are going to save, actually, that conversation announcement as well for the action item, but we are here to not only talk about the Calmer Fire Company getting land development approval for tonight, or this evening, for its new firehouse, but also the possible future home of Hatfield Township Police Department related to a land acquisition right on Cowpath Road. So we'll save that for another few moments. So there's nothing else under Public Safety. Finance Committee, Commissioner Andrews.
Yes, I have three financial action items on the agenda for tonight. The first is the new loan from Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority in an amount of $790,000 to acquire the land for the police station. The term is 30 years. The interest rate will be 1.1%. I wish we all could get that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's not a typo, that's real. So it'll be in that range, 1.1%, whatever the prevailing rate is at the time we do that. That'll be based on tomorrow's market. That is a fixed rate for the duration of the loan. The other item is to convert two older loans to a fixed rate. One was from 2006, one was from 2011. Both were scheduled to switch to a variable rate without action, but instead the board will vote to convert both of those loans a fixed rate of 1.1% as well. They are both currently over 2%. And what's nice is they're converting to fixed rate, but the length of the loan doesn't change. It still stays at the rate or the duration that it was. This goes to 1.1%. Hatfield's overall debt is considered very low by all of the best practices and standards. And now all the outstanding loans that we have from the township will be below 2%. The township is in a position to consider borrowings for construction of a police station space acquisition without adjusting the current debt tax. All good news. Thank you, Aaron.
Great news. And I assume that action item number 8, Aaron, is related to what Commissioner Andrews just mentioned?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So anything else, Commissioner Andrews?
No, sir.
All right. We're going to jump into our action items, which is where we kind of kept all of our fun stuff. So first is Calmer Volunteer Fire Company Land Development Resolution 20-15. If there's acceptable to the rest of the board, the chair would like to make the motion for that. Is there a second?
Second.
You know, you can pretty much put everybody down for the second on that one. I heard Commissioner Andrews say it, I think he was first in. And for those of you who don't know, but I suspect most people do, this has been a long time coming. And so I've been on the board for 10 years or more now. And when I walked in the door, one of the first things that former Commissioner Larry Hughes and I did was to take a tour of the existing facility. So that is some time ago. And at that time, it was clear that the Calmer Fire Company needed a new facility. And over the next number of years, I have to tell you, they have done a Herculean job of balancing the interests of the township, what's necessary for the township as far as equipment, vehicles, along with fundraising that they've done, some support from the township, support from benefactors over the years, and not many benefactors over the years. And, you know, one of the things that I think people forget is that the volunteers, and I highlight the word volunteers, these folks are trained and they're experts in fighting fire. That doesn't necessarily mean when they ran in to become a volunteer that they said, okay, my goal is to be the person who builds a building and to do all the financing associated with building a building. And so they had to take on the additional responsibility and become experts in a completely different subject matter in order to find themselves where they are tonight. And then last, and again, I can't applaud you enough on that. Not just the people in the room, but your predecessors and the folks who are volunteers right now. And then last is the point that I'd like to make is, you know, when was the current house was built when? I forget. 1942? So nights like this happen roughly every 50 or 60 years. So if people here don't realize, and people who are watching don't realize the significance of it, just think of it that way. We don't have a lot of nights, not a lot of opportunities where we get to support you in a way where we get to approve the land development. So can't thank you enough for everything you do on a daily basis, but also for this long-term effort that you put in.
There's a reason why you're an attorney, not a finance guy. It's close.
It 40, yeah, it is, 80 years.
Just point that out.
Gee, it is. Well, that's why you're the finance committee. So any other commissioners or residents with questions or comments?
Yeah, you know, I know the amount of time you guys spent working on this. And the ups and downs and the perseverance. And, you know, I got to hand it to you. You know, you guys have full-time jobs. You're doing the voluntary thing with the fire department. And you still found the energy. And it wasn't like you looked at this once and got it. I mean, this took years, and I remember all the designs that we went through. Again, I got to hand it to you all. You do a fantastic job, and really appreciate your energy.
Agreed.
Obviously, full disclosure, I'm an active member of the Colmar Volunteer Fire Company, so I get to see the hard work that all these guys have put into this building. I want to thank all of you, everybody who's been involved in this project, for all you do, the leadership from not just Chief Backlund, but President Seward and their predecessors who are involved in this, and all the members who are involved behind the scenes. Thank you for everything. You guys do a great job for the township, and it's appreciated. Unfortunately, with that being said, I have to recuse myself from the vote tonight, but I wanted to put it out there and say thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-15, which would be with regard to the Colmar Fire Company land development, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Congratulations. Thanks to all of you, really. Congratulations. Deserves a round of applause. All right, we're going to move on to our next action item, which is Resolution 20-16. Is there a motion for approval with regard to 25 Bethlehem Pike land development waiver, which Ken walked us through previously? Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Andrews, second by Vice President Rogers. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-16, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. All right, action item number 3, Resolution 20-17. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the Naplin 6 Fricks Trail lot line adjustment? Also brought, Ken walked us through that. Is there such a
So
motion?
moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees,
Second.
second by Vice President Rogers. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing that, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-17, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Action item number 4, Resolution 20-18. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the Snyder Square land development to commence the 18-month maintenance period? Motion by Commissioner Zimmerman, second by Commissioner Andrus. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of 20-18, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. All right, next couple, we're going to need some assistance from some of our consultants. Actually, we're taking action item number 6 before number 5, and that is a resolution 20-19 with regard to the condemnation authorization for Hatfield Crossing LLP. The chair will make the motion for that. Is there a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Andrus. I'm not sure, Aaron or Kristen, is somebody walking us through this?
I think you have a lot to say about the acquisition, but this just authorizes condemnation in the event we're not able to make a deal with the owner. We are optimistic that we can,
Right.
but also the condemnation has a benefit to both the buyer and the seller. So we always recommend that we start with this authorization and then move forward with an agreement of sale, hopefully.
This is step 1. Step 2 is the fun part, which is the next motion. Any questions or comments with regard to Resolution 20-19? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. All right, more good news. There is a motion for approval of the agreement of sale of Hatfield Crossing LLP for location 1635 and 1625 Cowpath Road and adjacent parcels identified in the agreement. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
By Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Lees. For those of you who don't know, Aaron, do you want me to just jump right in? Or do you-
Please, I have
Okay.
plenty of slides, I'll supplement, but please
Yeah, I was
take
going
it
to say,
away.
I figured you had slides. So the big news, and one of the things that you've probably heard us going into executive session about when we said real estate, was this. We're allowed to articulate that now. We have the opportunity to acquire a property, to a couple of pieces of property that are listed in this motion, right on Cowpath Road, to build a new Hatfield Community Public Safety Facility. Our police station right next door, as many of you know, I can ask when that one was built, but I might get the math wrong a second time. But I have to tell you, in the short time, you know, in the years that I've been here, we've had to do the front facade, we've had to do the crumbling concrete. It's because, no offense to the existing facility, it's old, it's deteriorated, it needs to be upgraded. It's not sufficient to support Hatfield Township and Hatfield Borough the way that we really could and should be supported from a facility standpoint. And this gives us an opportunity to have a police station right on Cowpath Road with easy access, and it's an excellent location. Got some notes here from Aaron, and I think I'm touching on a lot of them already, but he pointed out that literally have crumbling times, a crumbling facility, and the maintenance has become remarkably expensive. No doubt that we've discussed with Chief on a number of occasions about if he could find a location, would he be willing to move, and second, does it make sense to move? And of course, he said yes. We found this location roughly about 6 months ago, and over the last 6 months, we have made our best effort at putting a bid in and negotiating with the current owner. And that's why with tonight's approval of agreement of sale, we're hopeful that that agreement will come to fruition. The additional benefit that this does, by the way, is for those of you who are familiar with that area, the current facility, current building it's an eyesore. And so this is a really nice opportunity for us to not only have acquire a piece of property that will be the future site of a new police station, but to clean up what is our downtown Main Street that, you know, thousands of people drive past every day. So we're very excited about this opportunity. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Aaron, who I know has some slides that we've already started to see.
Yeah, you covered most of it, Mr. President. So the parcels in question are these. We have a lot of small parcels in that area, but for the residents' sake, it roughly encompasses that property as well as the house to the left. The property owners are out of state. They've been trying to develop this location for over a decade and have, for various reasons, things have fallen through. So we found ourselves in a pretty good position, and we built a good relationship with them over the years that after talking with the police department, we feel as if this is a great location to, like Mr. President said, clean up and then put a police department there. And what we like about it as well, you see there's paper streets throughout this area. A lot of this area is already owned by the township, so we have the ability to have a little bit of a bigger of a footprint than just what is being acquired now, but also direct access to Cowpath, direct access to our villa right in the middle of our municipality and right in the middle to serve the borough and the township, which our police department does. So a lot of really good opportunities with this future acquisition. We hope to see, work with the commissioners over the next several years, but like Mr. President said, short-term, clean it up so it doesn't look like this for the 20,000 cars that drive through that corridor a day. And then over the next few years, we'll work with the commissioners to go through a very public process of hiring an architect and an engineering team and to design the site. And hopefully we'll have a new police department, police station within period of time, which we will determine. I think Calmer knows that building something isn't that easy. And so one step at a time. Say it again, Joanne? So this is right across from Snyder, the Giant entrance to the Giant Snyder Shopping Center. Signal is right here on Cowpath. This is the gas station for Giant, right? Yeah, that's a good question, Tina. I think that's one of the things that the commissioners will have to decide over the next few years as well as we start designing the new facility, is what to do with the old one. We're not sure.
It might fall down on its own.
Yes. That's the price that the board's offering based on the appraised value. Yes. At a interest rate of roughly 1.1. We won't know the actual rate until tomorrow based on the market, but it will be in that range, which is, you know, the lowest interest rate that we may ever see.
This is step one to having a new fire, so it'll,
Correct.
sure. Oh, yeah, we're not, yeah,
Yep.
we're buying the property.
Roughly 2 acres on Cowpath based on an appraised value by Indian Valley Appraisal. There'll be another future transaction for the construction, which we hope to get grant funding for as well.
So,
I think the other item here is, you know, the amount of work that the police force and Public Works has put into that building to get it certified and to maintain their certification, which is very important, which only a handful of police departments in Pennsylvania have that. We know how certification works. You only need this today, but in 5 years, you're going to need so much more, and you're not going to be able to do that in a building like that. Important that we move forward, so.
all right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call a question. Is there a motion? Well, there's already a motion, but do I have approval for agreement of sale with Hatfield Crossing? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Congratulations to chief, staff, everyone. Step
I'll be here
one-
for the next building, too.
That's right.
80 years from now.
Step one is complete. All right, two more action items. Ordinance number 691. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the Delaware Valley Regional Financing Authority loan in the amount of $790,000, obviously related to what we just discussed?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lee, second by Commissioner Andrus. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of ordinance 691, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Last action item, with regard to what Commissioner Andrus mentioned earlier with regard to the interest rate conversions. Is there a motion for approval for Resolution 20-20 regarding the interest rate conversions for 2006 to 2006 and 2011 notes?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Andrus, second by Vice President Rogers. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-20, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Township staff reports. Aaron, I think you said that you have,
I do have an item, Mr.
An item,
President,
right?
that is not on the agenda. Before I get to that, too, I just want to reiterate something that Commissioner Andrews said, just so the residents are aware. The commissioners over the past several years have put in the township, have put the township in this position where it can acquire this property, plan to build a future police station, maybe relying on grant money, maybe not, but the commissioners have been able to make this happen without any adjustments in the millage rate, the tax rate, the debt rate, because of several moves over the last several years, and just being really fiscally responsible. So I just want to point that out. When people see some large numbers on this agenda, it's not going to affect your personal planning as you look forward with your tax liability. So it's important to note that. One other item, Commissioners, that I have that was handed to me today, it's actually for our other volunteer fire company. And I think Dean went to save someone from a building, but Dean, the president of Hatfield Fire, is here. We've been working with Dean on a project, and this was just sent my way by Anton from McMahon, who's applying for the grant. Dean had expressed an interest in getting some flashers installed outside the Hatfield Fire Station. They're having a hard time when calls come in and they need to back up there in the middle of Hatfield Borough. There's been some issues with trying to get out safely. So we agreed to work with Hatfield Fire and Hatfield Borough. We're going to apply for a grant. So, Mr. President, if we could call this Resolution 2021, and Anton just sent it to me about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
2021, this is a grant through the County Transportation Program. Hatfield's applying for $60,000. There's a local match of 20%, which the township and the borough would split. So the liability is roughly $6,000 to the township as well as the borough to help Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company install these two, we'll call them emergency flashers outside the fire station, which they will then be able to turn on as the calls come in, and they'll be able to control that. So Anton was helping them through the design, PennDOT approval process, and then as well as the grant application. So if you wouldn't mind, if you'd consider that resolution, and then that would be part of the grant submission package.
All right, so is there a motion for approval of Resolution 20-21 with regard to the emergency flashers for Hatfield Fire Company? Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion, I almost gave you the first, so someone over here has got Commissioner Lees has made the motion. The second is Vice President Rogers. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. This is a great thing, of course. Anytime we have an opportunity to apply for a grant, that's a great thing. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. All right, Aaron, anything else on the staff agenda?
That's it, other than just personally thanking Brian, Andrew, and Mark left too. We're losing the whole fire
Left of it,
company.
yeah.
And just to, President Zifo covered it all, but working with the three of them, they really made a huge difference in the Comer Fire Project when they got more involved in the leadership positions, that we went from a stalemate to moving forward at rapid speed. So we're here because of the work that they put in over the years. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Clarification, for the Delaware Valley Regional Financing Authority loan, is there an ordinance number associated with that?
There is, and I put it on
did I not
President
call it?
Zipfel's.
It's 691.
691.
Okay,
I know
all
it was left blank on the others. We were trying
Sorry,
to
I
figure that out today.
I think I announced that it was ordinance number 691.
The minutes will
You're
reflect
shaking
that.
your head at me that I did.
I heard it.
Okay. All right. Well, it's solicitor's report.
All's well?
It's
Nothing to
always good to
report?
hear. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? All right. Not seeing anyone run up to the podium, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Zimmerman, second by Vice President Rogers. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.